Our ancestors should be honored, valued, and respected. Dear listeners, today I want to present to you at least 5 legitimate ways of honoring, respecting, and valuing our ancestors without committing idolatry. First of all, bearing their names. In my tradition, we have the system of what we call surname, family name. For example, the family name I'm bearing now is the name of my great grandfather, not even my grandfather, but great grandfather. That is a way of honoring them. Second way of honoring our ancestors is by quoting them. Sometimes you hear people say, our ancestors used to say, our fathers used to say, a wise saying in my culture goes this way. There is an adage in my culture that goes this way. This reference to the wisdom of our ancestors is a typical way of honoring them. It is just like somebody who is writing a book and who is quoting an intellectual authority. So it is a way of honoring our ancestors as well. The third way of honoring our ancestors is by erecting monuments in form of something like statues for our ancestors. You can do that in your family to keep the memories there. You can also, you can cement their graves or put marble on their graves with there may be their pictures so that their memories will always remain with us. The fourth way of honoring our ancestors is by celebrating their legacies. For example, in the field of academics, a particular share or yes, a conference can be organized yearly in memory of a professor, in memory of a great man in the field. For example, you can hear of share of Professor So, share of Pope this, share of Cardinal this, share of His Royal Highness, so and so. This is a way of honoring their legacies, honoring their memories. The fifth way of honoring our ancestors, and I think it is the most important, is by living a fulfilled life. If your parents, or your ancestors lived a very bad life, if today you are living the contrary of what they lived, there is joy physically and spiritually. There is joy in the land of the living and in the land of the dead. If your ancestors lived a good life and today you are keeping that legacy going, it is also something of joy. So these are the 5 possible ways of honoring our ancestors. But then I feel to add the sixth. The sixth is by celebrating and valuing our culture and tradition. It is very, very important. But unfortunately today, people think that culture and tradition is all about adoring the same gods that our ancestors adored. No. For example, I am an Igbo. We have the New Yam Festival. During the New Year Festival in my village, normally you go and you offer sacrifice to the idols, those traditional things. But today, as Christians, we still celebrate the New Year Festival. But this time around, we go to the church. You see what has changed? We have the chieftaincy title of Nzenozo, let me put it that way. In the former days, people used to go to idols. Sometimes they can even be the divination to find out should it be a female Ozo or a masculine Ozo, as we used to call it. But today, those things, they no longer exist. You just take up the chieftaincy title normally without getting yourself implicated in anything that has to do with idols. So it means that chieftaincy title is our tradition, is our culture. But then other things that are just beside it, they are just there as the decorum, the spiritual decorum of it. So it depends on the God that you worship. If you're into traditional religion, the day of New Year Festival, you can go to before your deity. And then if you're a Christian, on the day of New Year Festival, you can go to your church and bless your harvest.